already know how to identify the vertex by completing the square, but if you don't want to complete the square, there's another method using this vertex formula. You first find negative b over 2a, which will become the x-coordinate of your vertex, and then substitute that negative b over 2a into the function to find out the corresponding y value of the vertex. So let's take a look at this first problem. State whether this opens upward or downward. We notice that 2 out in front is positive. So, since the a value out front is greater than 0, it opens upward. It opens upward. Let's find the vertex using this new method. X is equal to negative b over 2a. This will be negative of a negative 10 over 2 times 2, which is 10/4 reducing to 5/2. Now we substitute 5/2. Y will equal f of 5/2, which is equal to 2 times 5/2 squared minus 10 times 5/2 minus 5. This is equal to negative 35 over 2, and that tells us the vertex is at 5/2 comma negative 35 halves. To determine the x intercepts, we need to again set y equal to 0. And so our original equation becomes 0 equals 2x squared minus 10x minus 5. And at a quick glance, I can see that this is not going to factor. So I think we need to just start right into the quadratic formula. Let's begin with b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant, and we will have negative 10 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 5. This becomes 100 plus 40, which is 140, and since that is positive, we will have two real solutions. Since it's not a perfect square like 144, we know that the original equation up here would not have factored, and we made the right move to use the quadratic formula. So let's continue on here. X is going to equal negative b plus or minus the square root of 140 all over 2a, and for us that will be negative of the negative 10, so positive 10, plus or minus, okay, now we need to break down that 140. We know we're going to have a 2 times 70, and 70 is even, giving us 2 times 35, so we really have a pair of 2's there, don't we? So we're going to have 2 root 35. This will all be over 2. Now we can factor a 2 out of the numerator and then cancel, and that will give us 5 plus or minus the square root of 35, and so those two values, 5 plus root 35 and 5 minus root 35, comma 0, will be our two vertices. Now let's look at it while I've got it here. The trailing constant of our function is negative 5, so that tells me when we substitute 0 in for x, y will equal negative 5, and the y-intercept is negative 5. Now, I've already sketched the graph of this function because it's a little bit messy, especially when we have to go to 5/2 or 2.5 comma negative 17 and 0.5. So I've already graphed this for you. Determine the axis of symmetry. Well, that'll be the vertical line. X is equal to 5/2. Because this opens upward, it will have a minimum value when it opens upward, and that minimum value will be negative 35/2, or negative 17.5. The domain is all real numbers yet again, and the range will begin at and include the negative 35/2 and extend upward to positive infinity.